Hello and welcome to another episode of the Winning with Shopify podcast. For anyone that's not tuning in before, my name's Nick. It's such a pleasure to have you listening to the show. If you're listening and it's not your first time and you've been listening at least once before, or maybe you've been listening for 3 or 4 years since I've been hosting, it's such a pleasure to have you back. And we couldn't be doing this show without you guys supporting us and sending us lots of amazing messages, leaving us reviews, commenting on our socials, and following us all over the place. And if you haven't already, I say this every single week, come join the Growth Hub. You are completely missing out. If you don't know what the Growth Hub is, go listen to another episode and I'll explain it in more detail because people that listen every week probably hear me talk about it all the time. And if you haven't joined, there's a reason, but you are missing out. So up to you guys. Anyway, I spoke to the most amazing woman today called Hannah, who runs the most incredible business. And I won't tell you anything about the business. You need to listen to it all in a minute. I'm going to give you my list of random things, though. We started off talking about sign language, difference between American and British sign language, which was nothing to do with the current business. But you'll find out why in a minute. We spoke about cotton candy. We spoke about events during COVID, accidentally going viral. Literally, an instruction video she made went viral. So watch the show to find out how and why and what happened. We spoke about hiring staff. We spoke about seasonality and dealing with seasonality as a business. We spoke about having the most crazy design whilst balancing that fun with making enough revenue. We spoke about when Shopify themselves emailed her and said, hey, we want to do a partnership with you, which a lot of stores have never had and will never have. It's really interesting. It's the first time we've had someone on the show to actually talk about that. So definitely check that out. And finally, I asked her at the end, like, what are you guys planning? And she told us about some really, really big dreams, which might spark some ideas for you guys as well. Hope you enjoyed today's show. Thanks again for tuning in. If you haven't already, hit subscribe, leave us a review, and I hope you enjoy this episode. So Hannah, welcome to the show. How are you?
Oh my gosh, I am so great. Thank you for having me. I'm super stoked about this.
Well, I'm so excited to have you on the show. And for people listening at home, most of you guys, and I probably said this in the intro as well, I record them slightly separately, but I probably said in the intro, if you're not watching this, if you're just listening, I recommend our YouTube channel because Hannah, you are completely on brand right now. Like there is nothing pink in my shot for our pink branding, but you look like I'm on the website at the moment. And we're going to talk about branding a bit as we go through. But if anyone's just literally tuned in, skip the beginning bit, or has never heard of Floof or yourself, tell us a bit about your background and then tell us how you started the business and what the business does and kind of how it all fits together.
Yeah, well, I am the owner of and founder of Floof Cotton Candy, which is a cotton candy company, and we specialize in cotton candy cakes. But before that, I was a sign language interpreter. I studied American Sign Language and was an interpreter. I had no plans to start a cotton candy company, although a seed was planted. I was traveling all over Australia and I was working at like a carnival. And I remember seeing the line for fairy floss, is what they call it over there. And
Oh, wow.
just, just, yeah, just being amazed at how like magical it was. And, but also the profit margins really of like, a tablespoon of sugar is now $5. And I do remember that seed being planted and going, I would love to start a cotton candy company. That would be so fun. So when the pandemic hit, I went for it.
Awesome. Awesome. And it's funny you say, was it fairy floss, they call it in Australia?
They call it fairy floss in Australia. Yeah, dragon's beard, I think is what they call it in maybe China. There's a
Oh,
lot
wow.
of different names for it.
So
Yeah,
we call it candy floss, is what
candy
it's known
floss.
as in
Okay.
the UK. Yeah, yeah. So any
Yeah.
carnival. So one of my colleagues said that, and I was like, "That's not what they're calling it. These guys must be from the other side of the pond. Like this is, yeah,
Yes.
slightly different." But
Yeah, we are based in Northern California, but we ship all over the US and to Canada now. And yeah, we call it cotton candy.
nice, nice. Which is the American term
Yeah.
for it, isn't it? Amazing. So like you were so you were doing sign language, and
Yeah.
I find it fascinating. American Sign Language actually is what we also use here in the UK. I googled it the other day, so my wife mentioned it. The difference between British Sign Language and American Sign Language. And American, I think, is simpler, which means people can pick it up quicker than British. So actually, we have adopted American like almost globally now as the
Interesting.
sign language, which I thought was
And
quite
we
a cool
and
fact. Which you probably know way more about this than me.
well, we American Sign Language got their influence from French Sign Language, from the French. So, gosh, you know, we're all borrowing and
We
sharing, and I
are,
love
and it's all
that.
Latin at the end of the day, isn't it?
Yeah.
Latin started everything, and we all made our own versions of it. But okay, so yeah, so you started the business. What year did you start it in, and kind of what was the first kind of first few challenges you had to overcome to start getting some revenue, get a store set up, or get customers purchasing?
Yeah, we just celebrated 4 years of Floof cotton candy.
Congratulations,
So,
happy
thank
birthday!
you. I'm very it goes so fast. I can't believe it's been 4 years, but I started with a cotton candy cart, and I had this idea of starting a cotton candy company. and there were no events going on because it was in the middle of the pandemic,
COVID. Yeah,
and
yeah.
my employee calls it the panini instead of the pandemic, and I just think it's hilarious. I know, but it's a happier word than, Anyway, so during the panini, I was starting this cotton candy cart, thinking one day events will happen again and I can do events. But there were no events at that time, so I spent a lot of time making cotton candy, I make my own sugar bases. So I can make peanut butter cotton candy, champagne. I was really playing in the kitchen, creating cotton candy. I would mostly just put it in a tub or put it in a bag and give it to friends, or I was just starting. And I didn't know what it would be, but I was very energized by all of it. Like, I
Especially
would
with the sugar. That would help as
Yeah,
well.
maybe that was it.
Yeah.
I do feel like the sugar, it comes on my face, all over my face, all over my body, and it probably seeps into my
Yeah.
skin and my body. Very energized, that's a great point. Um, and yeah, I didn't know what it would be, and then I what I did was I started putting a bunch of cotton candy in a larger tub. I still have it. It was a big Costco size, which Costco is like, a big giant shopping center. Costco size cottage cheese container. So it was huge. And I was pushing the cotton candy into it and really pushing it down. And I remember just being like, I flipped it over on my table and lifted the container up and realized this was like a cake, like a full cotton candy cake. And I just, like, knew, like, I thought this was so cool. And I'm like, I think this is gonna be my thing." I just I've had this feeling, but that didn't take off for a while. It was just in the back of my head, and I didn't know if anyone would want that, and it was a challenge to start during the pandemic and not know. I was just selling locally, local pickups or drop-offs, and people were excited, but I didn't know really how to grow. I had never taken an entrepreneurship class. I had never taken a business class. I didn't think I would ever be a business owner, but here I am 4 years later. So we're
Wow.
still going.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's amazing. And I need to ask, we've had a few guests on the show that have like invented something that you either use or taste. There was, and I cannot remember the name of the business, so apologies if you're listening, but there was a chewable toothpaste. There was a lady who was traveling a lot and she didn't want to take like hold luggage on planes as she was flying around the US. So she just wanted hand luggage. So she wanted a like solid toothpaste. And she had some disasters where she lost her own taste and things like trying the product. You must have just to ask on a funny point, and then we'll talk properly about marketing in a sec. But you must have had some interesting experiences with some of the flavors, or I don't know if you've
Yeah.
tried anything like really wacky.
Yeah, I mean, I remember I trail run in my community here in Auburn, California, and I would bring my new flavors to my running club and have them try it. And yeah, some people would be like, "This is way too strong," or "This, I don't taste the, kiwi strawberry in this." And it was helpful to get that feedback. I think peanut butter was a really weird one. I made it green, so it was really hard for people
Oh,
to
so
kind of
like yeah.
like, understand what was going on between, like, the color and the flavor of, like, peanuts. It was just, yeah, it was fun to play with. I don't know how many disasters. I think the disasters probably came from, like, machines breaking and not knowing how to, fix. I'm very good at fixing a cotton candy machine, but I had to learn to be a little, mechanic in that sense, so,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Amazing, amazing. So in those 4 years, when would you say it was like, okay, because you mentioned, I think it's before we started recording, but you've got a team around you now. You mentioned one of your team earlier. So it's obviously grown. There's obviously people around. What was that first step, would you say, to like, right, I now have customers? Like, was it when you built your first Shopify store? Like, how long from 4 years ago when it was like, okay, we're going to start this thing up until like today? At what point did you kind of go, right, we've now got an operation, like this is a business and we can start actually building something here?
Yeah, I went viral, and I didn't
Nice.
mean to. And that really kickstarted me to figure out more. And yeah, so I honestly don't think I had a website at that point. I was on Instagram. sharing my creations, and you could, like, email me or direct message me if you wanted to order. And again, this was local pickup. I wasn't shipping. But there were a lot of people in my area ordering, and I was on TikTok, very new and early on, TikTok, and where people were still making fun of me for, like, being on TikTok. It
Yeah.
now it's like you have to be, but I created, like, an instructional video on how to slice and how to care for your cotton candy cake, because it's not a normal cake, and it's better to use a serrated knife and make sure it's not the dry knife isn't wet, because water and cotton candy don't mix well. And you can put candles and cake toppers on your cake. So I was making this instructional video I could send out to the customers who had ordered it, so I stopped getting all the emails. And it was a clear, beautiful video. It showed the cake, and our cakes are, gluten-free, dairy-free, very allergy friendly, and I
Just sugar,
explained
isn't
that.
it? So it's pretty much
Yeah,
vegan, I guess.
yeah, it is vegan. Yes,
Yeah.
vegan and, egg-free, nut-free, and there's so many allergies right now that, it really caters to that. But I make this video, I put it on TikTok. It was around the holidays, so that was about 1 year in, and it blew up. It really did. I think there's, like, I don't know, 14,000,000, 15, maybe 20,000,000 views at this point. I've had probably over 20 videos go viral. Not to brag about that, but the power of, organic marketing and TikTok, it was really that's really what has helped grow my business. I know we're gonna talk about the marketing, but about a year in, I was like, "Oh, okay." I thought the cake was really cool. I would have, like, loved to have that as a kid, so it was really validating to know, okay, other people are interested in this, but how do they want it shipped? And I'm in my house. I have, we call it a cottage food permit, so I'm allowed to make this in my house, but at the volume, I didn't know how I would do it. So I actually moved my website to Shopify. I think at that point I might have had a smaller I used a different platform. Moved to Shopify, so they because they had, more options for me, so people could pick a delivery date and things like that. And I would tell people, like, "Please, please, it's coming, but I need to get my, back end and my system in place before I can ship it to
Yeah.
you." Yeah, so there was a lot of late nights in that first, year or 2.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating though, because you're almost like building the business off the back of the demand that's coming in. You're trying to
Mhm.
provide the
Yeah.
supply, which is such a healthy way of doing it, rather than like a lot of businesses that go like when I started my Shopify store, which doesn't exist anymore. I just went on Alibaba and spent $5,000 on sunglasses and was like, I've got a sunglasses shop. And I was then trying to force people to buy these things rather than what you've done it the opposite way. And I'd say a much, although it is sugar, it's a healthier way from a business perspective, actually, to try and build off the back of people want this thing, it's cool. And what you didn't do is just go like, right, we're going to make 1,000 a day and then try and sell them. It was like actually building the other way around. When
Right.
did you get your first staff member? Like, when did kind of managing others and stuff really come into play? Because you don't have to share any stories on this, but as someone who employs people myself, it's a whole world that no one prepared you
Yes,
for. A whole
it
world.
is. It really is, and that's a great way to put it. There's no way in preparing for that. I At that point, was doing, weddings and cotton candy carts at my would bring my cart and make fresh cotton candy cones at weddings. And it was actually a wedding that I did a bride, the bride. And I ended up, kind of putting out a post of, "Please, I need help. I need someone to come work for me." But they had to be in my home, and it was very, like, we had to get along. So I hired my first full-time employee, just, kind of a friend at that point, and trained her. And yeah, and now I have, the staff has come and gone, and, hiring is really a real challenge. I'm hiring right now, and, the interviews and making sure they're trained, and, no one is ever gonna do it like you, like the owner who really cares. I mean, not that these employees don't care, but it is a different energy. And, it's really cool when you can find someone who cares as much as you do, or just about as much. And yeah, so I have 3 employees now, and, hiring more now for the holidays. So, and it ebbs and flows, it really does.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess your business is up and down like that though, isn't it? Because I think if it's raining and it's like February, you're probably going to really struggle to sell products or and do events and get orders online than if it's like middle of summer and everyone's at the carnival, as you say, holiday season. Like, imagine, yeah, you must be kind of completely sold out for Halloween, which at the time of recording this, guys, I don't know exactly when this episode's going. Halloween's tomorrow as well, so it's obviously a massive holiday in the US and for you guys. But how do you manage staff then when like there's going to be big seasons and small seasons? When actually a lot of people are like, "Well, I've got bills to pay all year. Like every
Right.
week I've got bills to pay."
Yeah. You know, what's interesting is February is one of our busiest months
Oh,
because
there
of
we go.
Valentine's
Shows how
Day.
much I know.
So,
Yes, of
yeah,
course,
well,
of course.
it's and the summer is a little bit slower. August is a slower month because we do really rally around the holidays and what holiday, we'll make a Valentine's Day cake or a 4th of July cake. And it's seasonal and that can be a challenge. I don't like even saying that it's a seasonal business because there are birthdays all year long, and we continue to grind and work and, push all year. But oh my gosh, yeah, November, December, we're very busy. So I will hire more temporary employees um, to get us going, and it's such a party in here. If you're seeing, you can see
I
this
can see
this
the
pink
backdrop.
wall
Yeah,
behind
yeah.
me. There's rainbows everywhere. We got a rainbow light over here. I mean, the whole place is covered in like edible glitter and sugar. We have a really good time. Try to keep it light, but and there's a lot of standing. It's actually a very physical job,
Yeah, yeah.
standing and spinning cotton candy all day.
I think it's mad though. Like I was, when my lovely granddad passed away a few years ago, but when he was still with us, I was trying to explain what the workplace was like, and he was like, "What do you mean you've got a dartboard, like, and a table tennis table
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
workplace?" I was like, "Yeah, granddad, like, staff want to hang out, and actually, like, so
Yeah.
often when we leave the office now at like 5 o'clock, half five, there's people playing table tennis, there's people chatting, the music's been turned up. Like, we've even got, I don't know how many people, how long people have been listening to this, all of you guys, but we've even got a turtle who lives in the office in a massive tank. And he was a
Oh,
gift
I
from one
love
of
that.
our yeah, it was a gift from one of our podcast guests. And when he turned up, he was only like an inch big. But you make this amazing environment. And I I asked some of my staff recently, like, what are the top 3 or 5 things that make you want to work here? And they all fortunately listed some important employment parts. But they did say like the fact that we've just got a fridge full of like Diet Cokes and there's loads of sweets everywhere and chocolate and stuff. Although it's not the healthiest thing, they really like really loved that. And every time a shop turns up, like everyone's off their seat going, "Yeah, I'll help unpack the shop." Like, what's going in the kitchen, and like, and everyone kind of does it as like a team activity. And I'm sort of sitting there going, between all of you listeners and Hannah and myself, it cost me like 100, maybe £200 a month. Like, it's not a lot at all. You compare it to someone's salary or an insurance bill or something like that, or an advertising bill, it's nothing, but it improves the workplace so much. So I think like if you told me like you just had a really plain, boring warehouse with no decorations and stuff. I mean, for anyone listening, Hannah's also got a pink beanie on. Like she's so on brand. The moment she appeared, I was like, "Wow, you're on brand," and she laughed. And that was that was how we said hello a minute ago.
This is me.
Um,
Yeah, my business is an
yeah,
absolute extension
yeah.
of who I am. Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah, yeah,
making it
but it's so
fun is
important. It
important.
is so important because I think, and also like customers, and this is I think a really good question to ask you next, Hannah. How do the customers like? And I've been on your website as well, and if no one, if other people haven't, I do recommend going on it and tell us the web address in a sec. But
Yeah,
how do you?
please
Yeah,
go on my
how are you guys
website.
like?
Check it
Yeah,
out.
how are you guys like bringing that kind of brand, that excitement, that fun? How do you actually bring that to customers? Do you want to up your influencer marketing game? Do you want to meet more influencers, have a better working relationship with influencers? You might even be struggling to talk to them in the first place or even get them to talk about your product and post to their audiences. Well, at Winning with Shopify, we have teamed up with Affluencer, which is an app you can install on Shopify, and it comes with a 30-day trial. And even in those first 30 days, you can meet a load of influencers and start promoting your product. So there's no excuse. Go and install the app, start the 30-day trial, and give it a go yourself and see how you get on. When so many websites are like white background, here are some products, which one do you want? It's feature led, not benefit led. How have you guys really brought that to life to the customers as much as making the kind of work environment for you guys internally a good place?
Yeah, I mean, our website is really fun, and I hired help for that. That my first website, one of my best friends helped me with it, and it was still fun. But yeah, this floof is meant to be extra and bring joy. Like this is not a necessity. A cotton candy cake, I mean, for some people who have a food allergy, they finally get to enjoy a cake, and that's exciting. But yeah, having really consistent branding, and like I said, this is it Floof is my soul, like, my heart, and you can feel that and see that, and I think it makes it so customers can connect with that and, like, believe that, we're not putting on a show, this we want to send joy and, you know, fun to your home, and so finding a really good, you know, web designer and, um, gosh, I'm blanking on the name, but graphic designer, all of that is really important, and I think our content on social media with our, in with our website, you can really feel, "Oh, this is fun." And 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 that's exactly what I want. And, we could always do a better job. There's always more that you can do as a small business owner, but I'm really proud of, like, the what we've built so far and the energy we put out.
And I think just something you remind me of that I always suggest to clients and always kind of look at ourselves as well is don't hire a designer just because they're the one in front of you. With designers, I think whether it's a web developer, a designer, graphic designer, branding person, hire someone that's designed loads of stuff that you're like, make us look like this. Because I've certainly found that they're like, although there's a limited amount of pixels on a screen, or there's only so much you could put on a piece of A4 paper that people could still read. That said, though, there are different themes, designs, and every designer will have their own creative flair for what they do. And what you really do not want to be doing with designer, the way to get the worst result is to try and get the wrong designer design the wrong thing that doesn't come naturally to them. So, like when we've looked at our own websites or like even our logo, for example, I went to someone who said, "Look, you specify in helping brands stand out and look different. You work with disruptor brands, and everything you design actually looks quite different. Like there isn't a theme in the design itself; it's in they are all disrupting different industries." And to be frank, when people are looking on Apple Podcasts and they look at podcasts, they're all black, they're all white, they're all quite boring. Make us pop, make us so incredible. And he was like, "You're not going to like what I designed, Nick." And I was like, I need to learn to not care, was what I said to him. So he was also called Nick. And I said, "Nick, design us what you think will work best." And he came back with this bright pink. I could barely
I
look
love
at
the
the thing.
pink.
Yeah. And I was like, do it. It works. And he's like, "But you don't like it." And I was like, "I don't care. It's not for me." And we've had a lot of feedback, and we can see in the stats now that we get way more people clicking on our, and we've been playing loads with our YouTube thumbnails, the same as you guys will be with your social content, playing with what's the thumbnail they see, what's the first thing that happens on each video, how do we improve that engagement, and most importantly, how do we convert that engagement to revenue? Because otherwise, the engagement is fun but pointless. And so, I guess really good question I think to ask you is how do you make that connection between, because if you're anything like me, you must have days where you're like, oh my gosh, I've got my whole team on this side project that's fun, but it's never going to pay for anything, and I don't want them all to be disappointed at the end, but we kind of need to stop and do something that actually does generate sales. But like, how do you kind of intertwine the two things of like, we want to be fun and we want to be creative, we want our brand to really pop and people to engage with it, but we've got to pay the bills, otherwise like
Yeah.
they have to work in tandem. How do you get that balance in a small business like yours?
Yeah, well, like you mentioned before, like, I waited until that the demand was there, which I was so lucky that, I have a product that can go viral because it is so interesting and new and, like, brand new, people had never seen this before. So I really did wait, and as a small business owner, it can be hard seeing other businesses maybe grow a little bit faster, and I can tell, oh, they are pouring money into their business and, pushing advertising, pushing this, but I really did. I've never been in the red, I've never taken out a business loan. I waited until I had the funds to, and then, yeah, like, interviewed a lot of different designers. I made sure I found someone who I really, clicked with, and they were, I mean, I think they were in Cuba. They were far away, and she's an amazing designer. I can tag her, and I wanna shout her out if I can because
Yeah, do
if
what,
it's
what's her name? How can people reach
yeah,
out
her
to her?
name is Melissa. I don't have her, handle right now, but
Okay,
I
we'll
can,
put it in the
post.
description. So yeah, if
Yeah,
anyone wants to
because
get hold of Melissa, we'll put her details in the description because your design is
yes.
awesome. Like nothing short of awesome. It's so crazy.
She made me a I am a cotton candy cone, like, with my beanie and my
Oh, it's
glasses. I mean,
oh, of
she's
course, that's you. Yes, no, I see it now. Sorry, I'm on the website as much as yeah, as much as we're chatting, but
So, yeah, I'd love to support her and get her some more work if you're wanting fun and exciting design. So, I I don't know if I did it the right way, but I did it the smart way, and I did wait until I felt comfortable and had the funds to then reach out. And I'm grateful and glad, and I think every small business owner, especially women in business, I think we try to do a lot ourselves, and we're like, "I can do that. I can do that. I can do that." And then you're doing way too much, and it made I got to a point where we weren't able to grow because I was almost
Yeah, yeah.
holding us back
I've been there.
doing
Yep.
so much. I think I think most small business owners have, and it's actually hard to let go and say, "Okay, you need to be in charge of, customer service." Like, so it is a hard balance, and I have made a lot of mistakes. We made push cotton candy push pops. So it's this little push pop container, and you put a bunch of cotton candy in it, and then you push it up, and it's so cute. And I spent a full year
I'm getting
pushing
flashbacks to my own side
pushing
project. Yeah.
pushing this product, and people loved it. They loved it. It was like a handheld little thing they could have for parties, but it was not making enough money, and it was so time consuming. But everyone loved it, and the feedback was so good that it was like a drug, and I'm like, "We have to keep going, like, push pops." And at the end of the year, I was like, "That was not the right choice."
Yeah.
And you learn. You
And
learn.
sometimes you need to, I think you need to waste enough money to know what to spend your money on. And the biggest flashback put to my mind, we used to run so many meetups in London, with like other agencies, and we used to spend loads of money on it. Then we started getting sponsors, and at one of them we had like 300 or 400 people rock up one evening, free beer and pizza, 3 talks. I did one of the talks and 2 of the interviews. Like, I was center stage. And it got to like the end of, we probably did this for like 2 or 3 years, a bit longer than you. Got to the end of it, and my team were like, "Oh, we love doing these. These are so great." And I looked at our client list and every single invoice we had raised, and I was like, I cannot trace any of it to those events. Literally none of it. Some, apart from like 1 or 2 people came along, didn't really talk to anyone, didn't really gel, and also didn't say like, "Wow, that was amazing. Thanks so much for being." They said nothing, and they were clients of ours. And I was like, I would still have that client without the event. What a
Right.
waste of like £100,000 like over a few years. That was not a good use of funds. Um,
It's
yeah,
yeah. And it's good for us to be and for you to share those stories on your podcast, because it is hard to learn that way. And I think, I don't actually know how long you've been doing this, but I'm 4 years in. It's really helpful to listen to these podcasts and know, okay, I'm not the only one who spent, a year sort of on a tangent, maybe learning that's not the best use, especially time. I think it was such a time suck, and that is money, our energy at those late night events or, like, late night push pop parties, and I'd have all my friends come over, and it was fun, but, like, yeah, not the best use of
yeah,
time
yeah.
and
It's
energy.
funny you mentioned the podcast because that exactly the same. So we've actually been running it about 4 years. I've been running my agency since 2011, so that's been 13 years now. I'll be 14 in Feb. Feb's our birthday. Maybe we should do something on the podcast for a bit. I've been
You
hosting the
should
podcast for four
celebrate.
years. Yeah, exactly. And maybe we could get some of your products. There we
You
go.
need a floof cake. I was just gonna say, I'll
Look,
send you a floof cake.
and as if by magic, everybody, we are off on a tangent, wasting company funds. Well, not wasting for you. It'll be another order for you. But I do, yeah. At first, we were running the podcast, and at first, I didn't want to run it. I bought a business that came with it from my friend Caroline, and so she used to host this, and she was like, "You got to do a podcast, Nick." I did one and got hooked, and I was like, "Wow, this is fun." My ego's gone through the roof, like, and I can interview people. I look amazing. Well, I sound amazing. It wasn't video at first, but we did that, and then I hired someone and was like, wow, this is great. And they got to the end of the year and I looked at my accounts, was like, I'm paying them. The podcast is making nothing and the rest of the business is just not working. She ran it really well, but I can't run it the same way she did. It's just not working. And then it was, but then what we did with it, and I think there's probably a middle ground for some of these things, is we got quite creative with it and said, do we just charge people to listen? No, we don't think that's going to fly. It's hard enough to get people to listen to it anyway, let alone adding a fee to it. So we charged someone to come on as a guest and they were like, yeah, happily pay that. And we were like, great. Well, we've got 52 slots a week, 52 times by that amount of money. Wow, his salary's paid. We've made a bit more. And then how do we get clients from it? Okay, we need to establish ourselves. That's going to take some time. So we kind of really built it. And the sponsors now we earn good money from. We've got, as you guys would have heard in my intro, we've got a community, and that community is completely free at the moment. There's no sponsorship on it, nothing. We have plans to monetize it one day, but we're not going to be like charging tons and tons of money for it. It will be some sort of value adds. It'll almost, like, one of the ideas that's been floated we could offer is, how do we offer like a sort of $10,000 a month's worth of agency fees for like $50 a month, just $50. And it's like, I reckon I can make that happen. And so the team now are working on some ideas and thoughts like that to help people like yourself and lots of other people listening. But I do think that there's a middle ground of like, okay, we're getting traction here, we've got attention, but it's not converting. And I think that's when you need to take a step back and go, how far will this go? How much of my time does it drain? Could it generate anything? And how much is it going to cost me to go down that road? And sometimes, like my sunglasses business, I just clicked the button, put the all our stock on eBay, and I was out, and that was it. And
Mhm.
I actually
Yep,
made my money back in the end, but I didn't get my time back. But then
right.
it's like, if I just signed one more client in my agency instead of doing that whole exercise, more money. But it was fun, and the team
And
did
I'm sure
enjoy it.
you learned a lot, and that's where what I
Learned a
take
lot.
with me is I am always learning, and it will help me in the future or someone else. Hey, maybe don't do the sunglass business. Like I did that, or
Yeah. There was no USP. It was just wooden sunglasses. My wife and I had a great time on a holiday, like taking pictures of them. Go, wow, this is going to work
yeah.
so well. And then it was so depressing when you put all the new images live
Oh.
and do social posts. You're like, 4 likes. Oh, all
Mhm.
right. We just we spent like 2 days taking pictures and editing them and everything. Um, but I guess kind of bringing it back down to marketing, and maybe I think it's a really powerful point to stop on, or to kind of finish on. Shopify and you guys did something together that sounded absolutely incredible. And I almost missed it from my show notes until you mentioned it before we hit record. Tell us, you got a phone call from Shopify. Tell us what happened
Yeah.
next.
Yeah, Shopify emailed and they said, "We would really like to work with you. You know, yeah, give us a call. Can we hop on a call?" And Shopify, at least this department is based in Canada. A lot of Shopify is in Canada, if I'm correct. And yeah, their team, kind of the filming team, they wanted to come down and they did. They were here for 4 days and they filmed for 4 days. I think they were here for longer than 4 days, but we filmed for 4 days and they wanted to tell my story because I mean, it's an interesting one, and I think people can relate when they're starting a business and they don't really know what they're doing. 'Cause that's my story essentially. And, yeah, we went from and I had just gotten my storefront. I have a a kitchen and a storefront now, but for years I was doing it out of my home. And, the reason, excuse me, they reached out was because I have been very active in posting so much on social media and sharing my story and sharing my products, and they found me that way, which is why I do tell why I'm like, I think it's just so important to keep sharing and posting behind the scenes. But it was an amazing opportunity to really share the start of my business, and then we sort of ended where we got to see, me be able to grow into this kitchen. And yeah, just a lovely experience. The Shopify team was amazing.
Yeah,
I
they've
I I
such a cool
really adore all
culture.
of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. And what was the output of it? Like, did they start posting it on the Shopify channel? Did it become one of their ads? Like, what did you guys
Yeah, I
get off the back of it? Like, was it as crazy and viral as everyone will assume?
You know, it's fun. I still people like I have a neighbor upstairs who's like, "I keep seeing your ad, like, I keep seeing your face," and I
Amazing.
have no control of what they do with those
Yeah.
videos,
Yeah.
but they did post on all their socials. There's a full 4-minute YouTube video, there's a shorter video that was put on their social media, and then they took clips for ads. So, I know in America, people, have seen Shopify ads with my face and a little bit of my story. And because I really did move my website to Shopify, so because they could handle what I needed. And this isn't an ad for them. It really does work for me, and I really like my Shopify website with them. So,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And obviously, I wouldn't be running this podcast if I didn't like Shopify. But
yeah.
I think it's such an amazing way. I think for like a tech company, like thinking of all the other platforms I've worked with, like Joomla and Drupal and WordPress, they would never reach out and do anything like this. I think that, like, I was having this discussion actually with someone over the weekend that they sort of said, like, how much affiliation does your podcast get with Shopify? And I sort of said, actually, Not much, but at the same time, like, I feel really connected. Like, the support we get as an agency is incredible. Like, 24/7 live chat, and if you talk to someone, that person owns your query. They will email you immediately afterwards. They'll organize follow-up calls. Quite often, live chat turns into a video call within a few minutes, and they say, like, "Right, show us the problem. We'll try and fix this. Click here, click here. I've clicked something," and they can actually do stuff for you. I normally reach out to them when I'm stumped and I'm supposed to be one of the experts. It's like, even then, they normally get their second line support team. If you get second line support, you know you've nailed it. Like, that's now you've got the really technical guys on the call. But I do feel that sense of, you're actually very well, like, we're all very quite very connected to them, and I think it's really powerful, like, advert, I think, for the way a tech platform can run. And it does remind me a lot, actually, of some of the biggest tech pioneers that have ever existed, like Google. We, most of us, pay nothing for Google. You use Gmail, you use Google Photos, you go on Google and you look for everything you shop and go and look for, you go on Google, and you do that on Google Chrome, which is also free. It's a really effective model. And Shopify is very similar. Like, we're going to charge you next to nothing until you start selling products. And if you do, like yourself, we're going to really encourage you to grow here. We've had Shopify on the show a few times making announcements, and they've never announced, like, oh, there's a new button that saves you 5 minutes on your reporting. It's always like, actually, we're going to help you finance your business to grow. If you're growing steadily enough, we'll give you cash up front to grow faster, and we'll take it out your transaction fees. And it's like, oh, that's a really effective model, actually. And certainly, in, I shouldn't say this, but as you asked me before we hit record as well, not affiliated with Shopify, so I can say, if you think Shopify Plus is too expensive, reach out and tell them that, and they'll do something on the price. It's yeah,
There you go. Hey.
many clients have gone before us, and got really good deals with them. Same with other tech platforms as well. But
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, and I actually did an ad with Google Workplace. They reached out as well, Google, and said so I do like those the companies who want to show the stories of, because that's what Shopify is really pushing, like, right now. They're like, "Look at what these small businesses are able to do." I just think that's really cool.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I said it was gonna be last question, but I now realize I lied. I didn't at the time, but I now realize I do want to ask one more. Um, just in the last sort of 2 or 3 minutes, where are you
Yeah,
guys, like, heading? What's on the horizon? What are you excited about? Worried about? Like, what's kind of I know it will change in the next 10 minutes anyway, but what's kind of front
right.
and center right now? Like, where are you guys trying to head as a business and as a team?
That's a great question, and I'm a dreamer. So I have big dreams, and I put them on the shelf, and sometimes they need to stay on the shelf, and sometimes it's time to bring them off the shelf.
I love that. Yeah,
So
yeah.
I really wanna keep pushing my floof cakes. I don't think enough people know about them, and I I really want it to be almost like a household name, especially for people who do have food allergies, which that rate is growing rapidly. I'd love to be able to ship internationally. Right now, we're in America and Canada. I'd love to ship to the UK. A lot of people ask for floof cakes,
I would love that. Yes.
and yeah, that's a goal. That's on the list. And, I have a dream of franchising my cotton candy cart and giving people an option of having a side hustle that is already set up and successful for them to be at events and, yeah, make cotton candy, bring joy, and make some money for them and their family. So
Amazing.
that's what's on the horizon.
Yeah, yeah, and you're absolutely right. I think about the shelf, and I think sometimes we, as entrepreneurs, sometimes especially when we've had our fingers burnt or we've had a couple of, like, false start things, sometimes we do, and you probably do this as much as I do, which is not enough. Is like, you take a day out and just go and not be in the office on a work day and just sit with a blank piece of paper and go, I know everything I know today about the business. I probably know it better than anybody. Like, I know all the intricacies. I know how my staff tick. I know what my customers are like. I started this thing. No one does anything that hasn't been taught by me or taught down from me at some point. What am I missing? Where can I grow? What are the things I need to do? And I think that's sometimes you grab the big dreams. And I mean, if you told me we'd be running this podcast as well as we are now 4 years ago, I'd be like, get out of here. Like, that's ridiculous. And I got spotted by about 4 people at a conference recently here in the
That's
UK. And most
amazing.
of our listeners are in the US. It was an e-commerce podcast, but people were like, Do you run Winning with Shopify?" I'm like, Yes, yes, that's me." And they're like, "I love your show," and I'm like, "Oh,
That's
great!" Like,
awesome.
my wife doesn't, but then Tells me I'm too carried away. She never listens this
No,
far into
good
an
for
episode, so
you.
she's never going to hear this.
I
She
hope
watches
she
Reels.
listens to this. We need her to listen to this one.
She's great though. She is also the reason I keep going every day. There's a get out
Oh,
there
I
and do
love that.
something today. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. But look, Hannah, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you coming on the show. So many amazing bits of your story and sharing so humbly as well some of the things that haven't worked and stuff. So yeah, thank you so much for your time.
Oh, this was so fun. You're great. I really need to find a way to get you a floof cake.
I would love that. Yeah, we'll chat after we finish recording.
Yeah,
Yeah, no.
yeah.
As I say, thank you so much. And for everybody listening at home as well, you guys play a massive part in this. So if you haven't already, please hit subscribe, leave us a review on whatever platform you're on, and come check out the Growth Hub. We'd love to get to meet you guys and invite you to some of the awesome events, get you on the new platform we've just launched as well. I'm very proud of the new platform because it's so awesome. And you guys can chat to each other, share stories, share experiences, etc. So thanks for tuning in today. Back again next Friday, and we hope to see you there. Do you ever find that in your warehouse you have dead stock? You can't sell it, no one wants to buy it, and you can't get a refund on it. Or alternatively, you're missing inventory in your warehouse that you need. You've got sales coming in and you're low on stock and you haven't ordered more stock in time. All these things hit profit, and I've been there. I've run my own Shopify store and had exactly that problem. But we've partnered it up with Inventory Planner, who have the most incredible app to help you manage that and forecast exactly what products, what SKUs, even down to what color of product you need to order in advance to make sure stock levels remain consistent throughout. They're also running a 7-day boot camp. And if you want to go and sign up to that, it's 7 emails over 7 days. And it takes the same amount of time as your morning coffee. And in 7 days, like me, you can become an inventory management pro. Both links are in the description. Enjoy.